The story begins where big monsters have invaded this world. They hunted dangerous-looking humans and started killing them. Even humans have ended in this world. I do not understand where this master income came from. If he thought that this was the punishment for his sins, then someone felt that perhaps the bite of this nettle or the right relay worm made such infections inside humans become the humans of Fanny. None of the real stories knew all the stories. Head is shown to us in this one town, a survivor, who was currently collecting the goods he needed in Chaptown. Suddenly, the sirens start to escape. He runs to save his life. While passing through the girls, there was danger all around. The world was reverberating with the sound of another bomb attack and the sky was completely black. The ball goes inside a Hallie house to wait for the danger to pass, where two poor little children are crying. Ball adopted them, after which some time passed and it was shown that the children whom Paul had adopted became bourgeois with the passage of time. They now also helped Paul cut off supplies, but before nightfall he had to be trapped inside a house first. Because till now in this world, we used to roam freely at night. Even today, according to his routine, as soon as evening fell, Paul's son Joseph stayed. He made his dog inside the house and locked him inside all the games of the house while Paul is standing outside vetting Thomas, who is today's baronet as usual. Thomas starts giving his explanation as soon as he arrives. Baba tells you how much he likes to work in the farm. It is too late to leave from there. These farms where Thomas Dam used to say were actually his neighbors. Point says that next time you will not be allowed to get out of the ponder. These people check the doors and windows before eating, whether they are well locked or not. After that, they got a great dinner of relief, and in the middle of the teaser, Joseph makes fun of going to Commerce's farm because it was known that Holmes liked his neighbor roamers. Just Joseph's credit was that he got so angry that the two started a scuffle, and here he says only this with anger. Sit down, and those people are human beings. There are no animals who fight so badly. Suddenly, the notice says that his tongue was on the ground in an unachieving manner today. The door also spread to them as if someone was knocking on it. Thomas and Paul go to check and find out that they had been avoiding this danger for so many years. Today the same danger was in their doorstep. They were trying to break into his house. Paul and Thomas loudly try to keep the door closed so that... "What are you doing sitting there? Why don't you come and help us? They are also watching. How big a problem is it?" In response, Joseph says, "No, I was noticing his behavior. He did 9 for the first important 20 seconds, then for 10 seconds in the same, and then the last time he went away after a talk." Joseph believed, even before the second, the creature who had done 9 was checking the first door. For when he knocked, his power was very high. It was probably his best attempt to break the door, but when the door did not open, finally he made a knock and he left from here. Paul also oversees these things of his. Now it is morning. For the time being there were tons off on them. Going out, Paul sees the sign of Kona on the door. The whole day is spent in work. The ball notice says that Thomas had done a lot of work today, but Joseph did not leave the house all day. Joseph was trying to build a car when he went and checked it. Seeing the ball go to Gaydar says, "I have gone from this scared life every day. I want us to run away from here. That's why I was just making this. I don't know if it could not run." Paul could not live without applauding Joseph after checking this car thoroughly. He doesn't know how, but he made this straight car. After a slight change of the pole, it also moves. Enjoy. Paul takes them to teach them how to drive and sends them both to drive on the avenue. Thomas is rammed because he promised calls to take Thomas to the forms. Thomas today work is more important, so the angry mobile comes and Thomas leaves with Joseph, but his mood is only fine when Joseph turned his car towards the forms. Thomas happily stops inside cushy forms. Arch says, "You go where you have to go, just come back and pick me up from here." On the other hand, we see on the doorstep of our house. The punch marks were visible. He fixes these doors with a new wood and then goes with him to the side of the waterfalls where he was without a mysterious black color. He ties himself along a path and goes inside the ship here. He had to secure the supply from here. He sees me and comes to a compartment, and as soon as he opens the capitals there, a lot of bunks suddenly attack him. His body was completely covered, but still he wanted to cut it somehow. Joseph had to leave to save his life. Thomas was busy working in speed phones, but work was all the excuse. After working here, he meets his friend. These people sat near one side and spent a good time, under which side these people were coming better than childhood. These people get sad while talking because these people had not yet solved the riddle that after all this world. How did this happen? You see that it is going to be evening. They have to come back to their house before the sun goes down, so Thomas runs out of them, and before they want to, they both do right. Or when Paul has returned from Waterfall, he was also upset to see that his dog is out of the house while his two sons have not yet come home, who just quickly starts a car and leaves for the return. When Kay was running away from Thomas towards his own house, but in the midst of all this, he gets trapped inside a strange citadel. As Joseph worshipped here to pick him up, he found Thomas nowhere. Seeing this, he does not understand anything about being very nervous. He quickly goes to his house and tells his dad the whole thing about how he left Thomas in the forms, but now he has not found Thomas anywhere. Uncle Joseph, what did you guys say? Well, for now, you relax and go inside. Lock all windows and doors properly. You say I'm going to carry Thomas with the dog. He left the house. Here we are now shown the scene of the clock in which Thomas was trapped. There was darkness all around. Thomas tries to light a fire on a wooden lighter set he has and looks inside this watch. He was shocked when he saw a strange black hand here. Before this, Thomas attacks, or Thomas takes out a small knife from him and for this, attacks Char's hand. As soon as he did so, the monster was angry. That monster gets out of saying this. Before that, the same Thomas gets behind, but there was also a very good monster behind. Jess had badly grabbed Thomas's mouth. Thomas was also having difficulty breathing, and before he dies he is here to save him. Paul grabbed creature from behind and stole Thomas first with his hand and then stabbed him badly with his knife. Thankfully Thomas's life was saved. But now the issue was that it was late in the night. It was in the dense forests of this time. Another run to the halt was not without danger. At night, they used to open the monster openly. They see this poor tunnel. While walking in it, these people reach a crack in the ground achieved. All felt that it would be safe to spend the night here. For their safety, these people also blocked the entrance of this place. They had just closed the entrance. They suddenly start coming from the sound of molesters Hurani. Pardehi Paul makes him famous with some of the things he possesses. As soon as he did so, his dog also suffered the terrible charsad inside this crack again and again. Paul knew that you were the monster right above the way these people are under the ground, whom he had been avoiding for many years. Monsters begin to cover this kind of soil from the top as well. It was clear that this place was a trap made by them in which both Thomas and Paul were trapped, and now these monsters were making them here. Paul had no other way to save his life. That's why, to scare the monsters, he pulls his famous out of a small clue in the crack. As soon as he saw it, Moisture got angry. He opened the crack and tried to attack these to get him inside the dera. Paul kicked Thomas out of his open passage as he entered. And for that matter, Paul blasted a blast here with the little things he had. He himself was injured in the displot. Here at home too, Joseph was heard speaking. He was also planning to avoid them. He sits with Vijay right in front of the door. He also tied a rope with the lion. Sitting. Suddenly he caught his eye, he fell asleep, but Monst was still outside the ink house. Monster was also keeping an eye on Joseph Pye from the very small clue in the door. Seeing Joseph the deal, he takes off the wood above the door and then says ho on Joseph that he has really fallen asleep, that is, D will come out. He lengthens his blue like a magic tease, moving it closer to her mouth. When Joseph did not react, the monitor also understood that he was really sleeping. Mostrak opens the door and comes in. As soon as he came inside, Joseph strapped a rope tied to his face, and in less than a second, a case fell down from Uber and the monster was captured in it, and it was revealed that it was actually Joseph Soyani. It all happened here. This was his plan. He puts a blanket over the sautéed moisture. It was also morning. So far, the rest of the people had no idea. They didn't come back. He takes a car to find them. On the other hand, we now look at Thomas, who is trying to open the entrance completely. The latter somehow pulls Paul out in the hard from inside. His dog was also outside. Joseph's car was heard from a distance. Running away, he approached Joseph and brought him to Thomas and Pose. Joseph was also shocked to see Paz injured. Together, these two brothers put Paul in the car and bring him home. Paul needed treatment. Right now they were talking about this when suddenly Thomas's eyes fell in a cage here. As soon as he picked up the blanket from the top of the cage, he started blowing from inside it. All he says is to get it back tired. This light hurts these monsters. Joseph explains that perhaps two monsters came here, of which he caught one of the monsters. These Mashas are even better than us. He wanted to study these monsters. What the performance tells him is that Dad has blasted a lot of monstreaks inside that kind of indrove. He gets shocked and calls his dad your dad. If you have really done something like this, then those moisture will definitely come to take revenge. That's pretty right. After that one Thomas seemed to be. He was even saving this monster kept in his house. He quickly unscrews his catches while Joseph refuses him. Frighteningly he sits down and crouches. His talk was barking at the sight of Master. Hearing his voice, the flesh changed completely. This most track became brave like a lion and up. Thomas and Joseph sighed to attack. To avoid its attack, Jose tried to keep him away from his stick, and without going for a single second, Thomas Tech would separate his neck from his body. Finally he was also dead, but Chonsaf wanted to study him. That is why he raised him from the dead. Doesn't go into his basement. He took a lot of cuts to study that type of monster, but he still did not understand how the monster is. He is like a human being, like an animal. He does not understand anything yet. While doing all these things, Thomas came to him. In fact, he wanted these people to see Paul every day. Take them because they had a lot of farms, a nice better house with it outside as well. Those people would also be safe from the most there, and they would also get medicines for the phone there. But Joseph thought because his neighbors would not help him. But then Thomas candidate these guys put copies in the ear and take them well, even if exactly Joseph said he refused to help them. Saying that they neither have much medicine nor much sleep, that these people can keep 3 people in their house. Do you call them these daily diets? Yes. If Thomas should stay here he can stay because he used to help them a lot to work in the everyday farms. After hearing this, Joseph flew to come back. Thomas backed him, but here he was very angry. From that I tell Thomas that you are the one who took Dad to death. Go away from here. Thomas also got angry with his words. Here between these two, an important scuffle started again. Thomas was killing Touch-Off, but then, when he realized that he was wrong, he stood up from himself. Joseph got up, came back, drove his car and fainted. Dad took these. He left while Thomas remained with Rose's family. Here Thomas gets good food to eat and takes him to his room every day. On the way who was bringing the ball home, he noticed that the animals were running very fast. This meant moving under the ground. As soon as he comes near the house, he saw a crack near his house. He understood that this crack was not made by the creatures of monsters, but his thinking was absolutely right. These monsters. They came here to take revenge, and now him too. Chong had to be prepared. He also first gives Paul a safety and then starts preparing a new plan while collecting the camel kite things in his house. That day all the windows of the house started closing the doors, and when he was walking, suddenly he sank into the pit made in the ground inside the house. All who understood that those peacock stresses have already reached their house by making this pit from under the ground. On the other hand, we see Rose's house. Thomas was searching their kitchen where he was behind. Every day he comes and tells the expert that he is not a thief, just he is worried about his diet, and medicine has been far away for them. Seeing his problem, Rose gives him medicine. Thomas hugs her saying thank you. Another one gets out of here. It happened saying that he would definitely come back. All these things were heard by a cement every day. As soon as he comes out, he donates a gun to Thomas. He was calling him a thief, but Thomas tries to explain to everyone whether he has this medicine himself. Rose nitty. He didn't steal anything, but no one here is willing to listen to him. These people could also shoot standing here, but they all picked up Thomas and one of their own. They take them to the bar row and go there and say music on. They had tied Thomas to the ground. A man standing far away takes a gun on him. They were about to get a scar on him, but before he could shoot, suddenly, the ground breaks from under his feet and he falls inside the ground. The other man standing here quickly goes to check him and leaves at the same time. Hearing the noise of a huge achiever, black monster and monsters, Rose's parents also went inside the main house. What was going on the other side? Rose's dad went to a candle to check this. As soon as the country is behind, they start to open the door, then Farini attacks them with a fall noise. But it was so dangerous that they could not control it. The sud candle also fell in his hand there, which made the curtains known. Seeing this light, Moisture left this man and grabbed Rose's mom to save his wife. Rose's dad grabs this Moisture and pulls it backwards, and Rose's mom quickly gets up and runs towards the left to find Rose. But before she could get farther away, the monster caught her. Badly stabbed in his body, kills him. She was listening in her room, she didn't know. Due to many boats, both his parents have been killed. As soon as this sound stops, she comes out of her room to check. He saw dazzling blood. Following them, she went to her mom-dad's washroom and she screamed as soon as she left because her dead mom and that big accident monster was in front of her. In another part of the house where the Sephirettes had tied Thomas up. She had killed all the people there for PE and now she was reading towards Thomas. Thomas hurriedly moves his hands and feet to save himself. Barely freeing himself, he was trying to run backwards but he failed in this attempt because now the master was right in front of him to kill him. But in time, they enter here every day with a gun and she shoots Moisture and kills him. These people were saved from this monster. Quickly people come running out and Thomas sees that Rose's whole house has been burned down. Rose tells her here that her parents were also killed. Thomas is sad to hear this, but it was not yet time for these things. In the emergency, they decide to go to Thomas's house where Joseph, on the other hand, is still planning to fight them. Joseph had made those houses feel with all the furniture in his house. After doing all his preparations, he loves his unconscious dad on the head and mom comes out for this battle with stress. Suddenly, the small window of his door opens. He looks back nervously. But it was Thomas and Rose. Seeing these, Joseph's mother-in-law came to peace. Thomas came here to accompany his brother and Joseph needed him too. They were just talking about the same thing or they happened suddenly. Paul's voice comes from behind. Who had regained consciousness. Both of them are happy to see him come to his senses. Thomas brought medicine for him or gives him medicine and here the ball tells him that it was time for you to fight till the last moment. Joseph shares his plan with the other two people and they start collecting all the gas and petrol they have. After throwing petrol everywhere in the house and keeping the gas cylinder, he used to keep one of his old freezers in the right donation of the house. Every day here. The child was also closing the windows she wanted. After this, they spread all the small crackers and such things which could be set on fire in their house. Even his dad's cigarette had all this preparation done to him. He sees that he covered the jice hole made of Moisture with furniture. Now the furniture was shaking. They've got them all stray here. And on the other hand, there is a ball in the room of the Jis. From his chimney, a master has also come into the ball's room. Here the monster had also come out from inside the hole, on which Thomas attacks from behind. But it doesn't die most attacking Thomas and Thomas in the Thomas before that. Hitting him on the head, he kills her. A third Montek had attacked Rose here. To save his life, he shoots him with his gun and kills him. During this, He comes to a blood-soaked ball, which was attacked by the molester, but that too was succeeded by Kumar. A lot of monsters had come here one after the other. Paul shoots them with his gun, but despite shedding so much moisture, many monsters had come to them. Paul's gun had run out of bullets. Paul kills someone with his gun bag, somewhere Rose and Joseph kill these monsters from behind. But the number of masters was sitting down. Save yourself this time. The line is asked to work that the three jackets sit in the recent that people came riding inside the house. After which Paul sets fire to this whole house. Due to wooden furniture and petrol in the whole house, this house exploded like a bomb. A lot of mall stress was killed in this blast. The result kept shaking for a long time, and when this freezer stopped, they thought who would be there. They quickly got out of the free and tried to find Paul, who they didn't see there. Here, as soon as Joseph picks up a piece of wood, a monster was also burning from below and tries to attack him. To save themselves, these people immediately come out of the house and sit in the air and start running away from here through the car. But the born master was behind them, making himself into a tire. Rose was attacking them with her gun, but no bullet was affecting them. As soon as this tight-made of monster comes close to them, Rose attacks them with her gun bag and this tire breaks. Moisture moved around, but he didn't stop driving. Miles away, they saw that the moisturizers were no longer chasing them. These were stopped at this time. These three eyes fall on the sky, the stars shining on the work sky. This was the first martyr by sight today, which every night before this view, these people used to be locked in their house, but finally now the monsters were over. Whenever he returned home in the morning, there was nothing there. Then people say Ball and Rose's parents and took their baby girl with cheeses. Let's decide to go somewhere far away from here. It was sure that now they would not have to fight such a war, and this story ends by showing these three together.